remembering Edye Ellis.
Can take on the world.
We are looking back at her talent, her tenacity, and her triumph in television.
Edye was unforgettable.
From her hometown of Chicago to the home she made here in East Tennessee, inspiring others along the way. Breaking barriers, the Edye Ellis story starts now. Hello, and welcome to this special celebration of the life of Edye Ellis. I'm Robin Wilhoit. The beloved former WBIR anchor died March 3rd in her hometown of Chicago. She was 81 years old. Edye broke ground here in East Tennessee, becoming WBIR's first African-American anchor. John Becker looks back at her incredible life.
Welcome to the World's Fair and to Welcome World.
Whether Edye Ellis was reporting from the 1982 World's Fair in Knoxville,
What he loved most
or
was
from Paris, France on Fashion and Culture, the pioneering broadcaster appeared at home in front of the camera. Former general manager Jim Hart is the reason she settled in East Tennessee.
And I wanted somebody to co-anchor the coverage of the World's Fair.
Her talent was evident from the start.
She was so good at communicating and so personable and so at ease with people that I thought she would add to our news team.
She broke ground as the first black anchor at the station, but she clicked on the desk with veteran journalist Bill Williams.
Edye and I worked together so very well, it was like hand in glove. Together, we could tell the story. And I think we told it pretty well.
Growing up on the south side of Chicago, Edye Ellis was close to her uncle and her cousins, Charles and Robert.
And he was extremely attached to Edye because he had two boys, and that was his girl in his mind. He did everything for her.
Family members say Edye shared her heart with them, and it blossomed in East Tennessee.
She loved the people of Knoxville a whole lot. That's all she talked about from the time she was there, from the time she left.
Later in life, family members say Edye was drawn back to her Chicago home.
She was always very comfortable. She remained fashionable. She was with me and friends a few friends when she passed away. She was fine.
Her television legacy is cemented, but it was her kindness that touched people whether she was on or off camera.
Edye was unforgettable. If you met her face to face, you were blessed. If you watched her on television, you'll never forget her. Unforgettable.
As John mentioned, Edye first came to Knoxville in 1982 to help with our coverage of the World's Fair. After that, she co-anchored the 6 and 11 o'clock newscasts with Bill Williams. That talented group also included Bob Kessling in sports, Margie Eisen in weather. Former marketing director Steve Dean remembers the talent this television group had and how the audiences loved them.
People could be comfortable with them. They quickly learned who could make them laugh, Bob Kessling typically, or something like that. And then Bill and Edye with this strong background, and Margie with a lot of personality in the weather presentation. They were just really at the top of their game, and it brought the station to heights that it had never been before.
Edye's death came almost 2 weeks to the day after the death of another beloved television personality, Margie Eisen. In February of 2013, Bill, Edye, and Bob all gathered again in this very studio for a special celebration of the 30th anniversary of the Straight from the Heart brand. As John Becker shows us, it was a chance for longtime viewers to reconnect with their favorites.
Yes, last Monday.
From the heart of the Smokies to the rocky top of the hill, with all the spirit, all the pride, we're coming straight from the heart of East Tennessee. Straight from the heart of East Tennessee. Catfish on the line, country ham.
Joining us once again is priceless experience.
My first couple of weeks or so.
Could we just see some more of those old promos? I love that.
I think
Could we just see some more of those old?
told us in the last weathercast that we have a big storm in the plain. I mean, most of them his grandchildren, and
Exactly.
he did us proud.
We have it posted on WBIR.com.
NBC Nightly News is next, dude. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a good night.
Edye was intelligent, beautiful, stylish, and kind. WBIR's former marketing director, Steve Dean, says she celebrated diversity in her friendships.
And she could not tolerate any kind of meanness on either side. She was very much a person that says, do you even know who you're talking about? Do you know them? She just was a person who saw individuals and not cultures. When you met her, she was talking to a person, not to a person from a culture.
Dean also shared with us just how smart Edye was. She was always prepared and always studied up on her topics.
When she was first given the anchor's position in the 6 o'clock news, she had come from a background of magazine shows, which is a softer news if you wanted. And so she was so desirous of being good that she subscribed to a number of newspapers, the local ones, of course, but also the nationals, the Washington Post, New York Times. And she wanted to know everything. So when something came up in the news, she felt like she had a background. She just made that her goal to study. And typical of Edye, she had all these newspapers and she'd start reading, and then she'd start editing them. And she was a great writer, and she would look at these stories written in the New York Times and say, well, they could have phrased that a lot differently, or I wouldn't use that word. It was just so funny. She went to learn, but she ended up just being an editor and saying, I think she was an English major, so I think it made a difference in that regard. It was just funny to watch.
When we come back, remembering Edye's efforts to honor the late famed author Alex Haley, from a trip to Paris to the unveiling of his statue of his likeness in Knoxville. We'll take a look back at that achievement. Welcome back to a celebration of the life of WBIR legendary TV personality Edye Ellis. In the 1990s, Edye traveled to Paris as part of an effort to raise money for Alex Haley Square in Knoxville's Morningside Park, a nod to the late great author. We look back at Edye's visit to the City of Light, celebrating the fashion and style of Paris.
Paris is a city of old world charm, enchantment, and a few unexpected encounters. It's also the hub of high fashion, and this summer top designers like Paco Rabanne are strutting their fall collections on the runway.
La beauté des femmes. And you learn from history, you learn love, and you also learn beauty. And that's what it tried to bring to our century today.
And high fashion and history joined hands for another sparkling event called Glamour Jazz, where top models and entertainers in Paris donated their time and talent to raise money for Haley Square in East Tennessee. American entertainer and model Tommy Garrett has been putting on Glamour Jazz for 6 years because he says it gives models a chance to do what they can't do on the runway.
You walk, you don't talk. You don't talk. And so what happens is you go out and people applaud you and you want to say thank you or how are you, but you can't say anything. So it makes it very interesting when the models have a chance all of a sudden to come on stage, even if they sing well or not. They're just interested to get to the end of the song just to speak back and say, thank you.
And Garrett's sister Yvonne Easley, a founder of the Knoxville-based African-American Appalachian Arts Organization, which initiated the Haley Square Project, appreciates the international support.
I never thought in a million years we would be in Paris doing what we're doing. It's because people love Mr. Haley. They love what he represents.
La raison, c'est dans deux mots. Alex Haley.
And the people of Paris are playing a part in making Haley Square a reality for the people of East Tennessee.
Like this one, I think, is enormously significant. This man is much loved.
Tina Allen spent almost a week in Knoxville in June sculpting the model for the centerpiece of Haley Square. And at the Glamour Jazz celebration in France last month, her hands were busy creating statues of Josephine Baker, an entertainer who was the toast of Paris. Part of the proceeds from any sales will go toward Haley Square, and French collectors have already expressed interest.
Paris and France in general has had a historical legacy of appreciating the full talent of a person and not being involved overridingly so with the color.
Alex Haley was at home on any continent on the globe, but what he loved most was inviting people from around the world to his home in East Tennessee. And even after his death, he's still uniting the people of Paris with the people of East Tennessee.
I want to go to Tennessee only for the music, for playing music, because the music of Tennessee is a mix of jazz, country music, blues music, and I like this music.
C'est dans deux mots. Alex Haley.
And the Tennessean to whom Glamour Jazz was dedicated was remembered by many friends and admirers, including Lee Chamberlain, who played his love interest in Roots 2.
Alex understood that if one of us is suffering, then we are all capable of suffering. And if one of us is happy, then we're all capable of being happy. And that's what I got from him most. He was just there's no pretensions.
And Haley's universal theme was very much evident in Paris as people of many backgrounds came together to pay tribute to him.
Edye was there in 1998 to dedicate the statue of Alex Haley at Morningside Park. Here's a look back at that special day.
Our sensitivity is bigger, our courage is bigger, our tolerance is bigger.
And our pride has never been bigger. As thousands of people gathered at Morningside Park, the warming sun was like the peaceful spirit of Alex Haley looking down on something that is good. This dedication seemed the only fitting way to celebrate America's storyteller.
It's a legacy for Alex, but it's a legacy for everybody.
In life, East Tennessee was Alex Haley's adopted home. Now it's his everlasting home. With friends and family by his side, there was an incredible sense that Alex is here. The size of the sculpture may have something to do with it. It stands 13 feet tall, the largest statue to pay tribute to an African American in the U.S., and one Louis Gossett Jr. says is only fitting.
Here you sit in front of the #1 community in America. To tell your stories for many, many generations.
At this time, you don't think of differences, but you think of togetherness.
Something Alex Haley would say. It's what he always hoped for.
The Reverend Renee Kessler of the Beck Cultural Exchange Center grew up watching and admiring Edye Ellis. She ended up working with her on a number of projects. We talked with her about Edye, a woman who the Beck proclaimed more precious than gold.
I am a native of Knoxville, born and raised. In 1982, I'm going to be an early teen. And as an early teen, I am watching her. First of all, the World's Fair is here in Knoxville. There are people everywhere. And I live in East Knoxville, so I'm a stone's throw from the World's Fair site. And I'm going to be walking on Cumberland Avenue. There's people everywhere. And it was nothing to just walk by and all of a sudden see this beautiful black woman interviewing with such poise and grace, all these great people walking by, and then you're starstruck, right? So I was starstruck seeing her in person, kind of watching her as she was in front of the cameras and we were watching from behind. But then never mind when I got home and I turned on the television and she was there with this great smile. She had this genuineness about her that I think kids my age and even adults, I'm sure at that time, just were spellbound over her. She captivated us. And the fact that she came here to this little city, I believe in so many ways, she inspired me in ways I don't even realize. I just knew I longed to know her and that I enjoyed, it made me happy seeing her on television. Even if you saw her on the street, right? I don't know if she really knew who I was or not. Certainly, I'm sure she didn't know how starstruck I was over her. And even I've called her on the phone before and just listening to her voice on the phone, I would get nervous, right? She had a genuineness about her that if she didn't know you, you didn't know it. Right? She always made you feel comfortable. She always said hello. She was always very friendly. And even if you watch her from afar, you saw that. So I think the thing that I take away from her is I'd like to be like her, right? I want to leave a legacy like Edye left that says, do your best. Be the best, represent well, and let the world see you, and at the same time have that humble spirit that just shines. She was the MC, for example, when they installed in 1998 the Alex Haley statue, 13.5-foot bronze statue of Pulitzer Prize winner Alex Haley. At the time, it's going to be the largest statue in the country of a single African American. Tina Allen's the sculptress. Edye is right there. Edye was making sure that that happened and that her voice, in fact, she was the one who welcomed everybody to the park that day. And I asked a friend of hers about her and her role with that statue. Beck has 2 small miniature statues of that 13.5-foot bronze statue of Alex Haley. And it's my understanding that Tina Allen went to her house during the time she was here as she was forming the Alex Haley statue, and she formed those 2 miniature clay statues that we have at the Beck at Edye Ellis's home. So I can't imagine what those 2 women were laughing and talking about as Tina was crafting something with her hands. Extraordinary sculptress, right? But Edye was an artist too, right? So she was this fantastic, extraordinary anchor. She had the voice, she had the poise, she had studied well whenever she interviewed anyone. You knew the questions were going to be in depth, they were going to be full, they were going to be deep questions that were going to cause you to have to really think about your answers. But she also had a kindness about her to help you out if you couldn't get out of the answer. But moreover, she was an artist. And so Beck is proud to hold on to some of the beautiful keepsakes that she actually did. 4 pieces that we're very proud of, little shadow boxes that she did of the 4 little girls from the 16th Street Birmingham bombing. She paid tribute to them, and she called them, more precious than gold. So she had this beautiful, beautiful sense of artistic expression within her. She loved the African heritage and culture and arts, but she loved people. And she was a creator. And I think that we'll still be uncovering and discovering the amazing things she left for us to discover that she created.
Edye made many friends while living in East Tennessee, including Elaine Irwin Meyer, whose father, John Rice Irwin, founded the Museum of Appalachia. 10 News anchor Brittany Bailey talked with Irwin Meyer to learn about her friend.
Thanks so much for being here.
Of course, it's a delight to talk about Edye.
I'm curious, how did the two of you become such close friends?
Well, during the World's Fair, the museum was a part of the World's Fair, had the Museum of Appalachia band playing every day, and we met Edye at that time. And Edye became close friends with my parents, especially my mom. And so it was through that she became a family friend. So not only was she close to my parents, but she became close to my sister and I, and also my children. So she spent holidays with us. When her family would come to town, they would come to our home and we would all have big gatherings. And so we had a wonderful friendship while she was here.
And of course, many people who are watching and in our viewing audience knew of her on television, but you knew her in real life, so to speak. So how would you describe her as a person?
You know, she was gracious, she was kind, she was understanding, she was a great friend, and she loved everybody she met. When she walked into a room, you knew it. She had the boldest colors, she was absolutely stunning, but she was so kind and had the best heart, so you went away from her just knowing you had met somebody special.
And you had a story that you wanted to share that you think exemplifies who she was.
So Edye was wonderful. She was her love language was gift giving. So she was always giving gifts and she was wonderful. But I had an accident about 25 years ago, broke my neck and was in this horrible halo thing. So when she came to visit me after I was out of the hospital and she saw this contraption and she said, "How do you wear clothes?" And I said, "I don't. I hadn't figured that out yet." A week later, Edye came back with clothes that she had purchased, blouses and shirts, cut them up, put Velcro on them so that I could wear them. Never asked, she just did. That's the kind of friend she was. She wouldn't ask what she could do, she just did it. She was such a lovely, lovely person.
And before we let you go, we know she meant so much to the Channel 10 family. What do you think about the impact she made on the community as a whole?
You know, the community adored her. She lived across the street from us for a period of years, and she would walk on the museum grounds every morning, and lots of times there would be school children there, and they would just be so enthralled with meeting Edye Ellis. And she looked different, you know, she didn't have her beautiful makeup and hair done and all of that. She had a baseball cap on, and you know what? She'd get on that bus and she'd talk about whatever they wanted her to talk about, and was as gracious and kind to those children as if they were long-lost friends.
Well, we so appreciate you sharing your memories and your thoughts with us today.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
When we come back, a visit with Edye at home and more on her legacy from those who knew her best. Welcome back to our celebration of the life of Edye Ellis. Edye was at home in front of the camera, and at her own home, she was just as stylish and lovely. We pulled this story deep out of our archives when former 10 News reporter Ken Schwall paid her a visit.
In 1982, the World's Fair came to Knoxville, and so did Edye Ellis. She spent 6 months reporting on all the happenings down at the fair.
And at Neyland Stadium on Saturday, the Pittsburgh Steelers face off against the New England Patriots.
But when the fair left, Edye stayed and became part of Knoxville's broadcasting landscape for many years. But lately, she's cutting back.
Are you working?
As little as possible.
That's nice. You're picking and choosing.
Well, yeah, because, you know, I call myself a freelance communications specialist in the sense that I'm available for voiceovers or, you know, writing or producing or whatever.
But these days, Edye has time to pursue non-broadcast interests. Serves on the board of the Knoxville Jazz Orchestra. That allows her to stay connected with one of the true loves of her life, jazz, a love that began when she was a child.
My parents, when I was 12 years old, took me to see this little trio, and it happened to be led by Duke Ellington.
Always the artistic type, Edye years ago began collecting African art, and today her house resembles a museum. Several of the pieces were made by Edye herself. Perhaps the most surprising part of Edye's post-broadcasting life is her other collection, her frog collection.
I have 12 frogs.
You have 12 frogs?
I do.
Who has 12 frogs?
I do.
Oh, right. You said that, yes.
Yeah. I have always loved frogs for as long as I can remember. I mean, I always love pictures of frogs. I always love live frogs. If I ever go to the zoo or in any kind of wherever there are animals, I say, well, where are the frogs?
After spending so many years in the public eye, Edye is almost surprised to have found true happiness out of it.
And it was really odd because I am basically a very private person. So, given the opportunity to be a very private person, I sort of said, okay, I'll be that. And I'm happy. I'm darn happy being it, too.
Hinchwald 10 News.
Edye made her mark, informing, educating, and entertaining East Tennessee. But her true beauty came from her heart. It overflowed with love for the people of East Tennessee.
Together we can take on the world.
As a seasoned television personality, Edye Ellis felt at home in front of the camera and in East Tennessee.
Everything about her was genuine, was real.
WBIR anchor emeritus Bill Williams remembers his friend and former co-anchor for her ability to connect with the people.
She told you something, it was the truth, it was real, she meant it, and she meant to make you aware of how she cared.
Edye grew up in Chicago, but came to view East Tennessee as her home. Her cousin Robert Collins says they were more like siblings than first cousins.
She was always kind, she was always nice to me, but being a knucklehead, she was very capable of putting me in my place. I learned very quickly not to mess with her, but do what she said. But she was a loving person. I never heard her say a bad word about anyone.
Edye's kindness was unmatched to those who knew and loved her.
Safety and charm that I felt from Edye was immeasurable.
Christopher Hamblin remembers how she came to him in one of his worst days.
I was not in a good place for some years, and I had a very particularly rough night. And the only person I could think to call was Edye Ellis, and she came to Cumberland Avenue and picked me up from Stefano's Pizza, took me to her home, and talked to me until I was okay. It's something I have never, ever forgotten and will never forget. I will miss her so terribly. She was everything that you thought she was and more.
She will certainly be missed. Edye's family says they will hold a memorial for her later in April. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those who loved her. She was truly straight from the heart. Thank you for watching.